the most amazing woman that I would have said, what, really? Wow, that'd be cool. And I was just on the base one day and I saw this kind of kiosk and I saw a bike and I kind of walked over there and I'm like, what is this about? Who are you? What do you got going here? And we just hit it off immediately, bam, and we have so much synergy. The things that I bring to the table are different from what she brings to the table, and our overall purpose is to help and empower women and veterans to take control of the handlebars of their life. And I'm going to read a little story out of my book. I'd like to just share a little bit about my background. I'm a retired Air Force Master Sergeant, and when I joined the Air Force, the slogan in the Air Force was, Air Force, a great way of life. And it was a great way of life, but it was also challenging and demanded sacrifice. And the military taught me a lot of things, but there's three real key factors that the military meant to me, and that's family, commitment, and choice. And the military was my family when I didn't have anybody to turn to, and my father abandoned me at 18 years old and moved from Texas to Florida and didn't leave me a forwarding address. And yeah, so the military became that family that I didn't have. And then the military taught me that commitment means doing that thing you promised to do, even when you no longer feel like doing it. And that included, as a single mom, I had to leave my kids to deploy after 9/11. I certainly didn't want to do that, but I was committed to my military service. I took that oath of enlistment, and I went and supported and defended the Constitution of the United States. And then choice. There's freedom of choice is what another thing the military taught me. We in this country have the choices and the freedom we have because the hundreds, thousands of veterans who've gone and served for our freedoms. So we can gather here, we can start businesses. There's some countries where we couldn't, and me as a woman, I couldn't ride a motorcycle or even drive a car, or maybe even couldn't even go out in public dressed like this without being covered up. I mean, we have a lot of freedoms in this country that we can do because of veterans who served. And in the military, when I joined, 8% of the armed forces was made up of women. That's a very small number. Today it's about 20%. And I wanted to write a book for women to be able to share their stories, because women have unique stories in the military. So Heart of the Military Woman was created so women could share their stories. And I want to read, I have 8 stories in the book, but I want to read a special story from a child of a military mother. Yeah, old military woman. Yeah, that's right. Age is a number that I refuse to buy into. So this is called Airport Package. I'm a military brat. I grew up with both my parents in the Air Force. When 9/11 happened, the world I knew slowly came to an end. My mom was working crazy hours, practicing war games, and always had her bags packed because she was getting told she was going to be deployed. They ended up being false orders. Finally, the news came that she was actually getting deployed to the Middle East for a 90-day period, which ended up being almost 120 days. That may not sound too bad compared to the 6-month and more tours that many soldiers are going on, but for an 11-year-old girl with a 9-year-old little brother, that was the worst possible situation. I don't quite remember her leaving, you know, the whole airport scene, but what I do remember is her being gone. While she was gone, my dad ended up getting deployed to Korea for a year. My brother and I had to live with our aunt and neighbors with no parents. My mom was gone on a top secret deployment, so we didn't know exactly where she was. Both of my parents were very hard to contact. We would write and receive letters, but it would be weeks at a time without contact to either of them. It was a very hard time in my life. Having both of my parents gone took a toll in all aspects of my life. I gave up in school, and I didn't care about my grades or my social life. I had a best friend who I could talk to about everything, but other than that, I was quiet and sad. The time finally came when my mom's tour was over, and she would be coming back. We lived in the smallest little town in New Mexico, so to go to the airport, you had to drive about 90 miles. My aunt and her boyfriend decided to take me and my brother out for a day of fun in El Paso, Texas, where the closest
airport was. On our way home, they said we had to stop by the airport to pick up something. I remember sitting in the airport thinking to myself, I'm going to be here in a week to get my mom. Little did I know that's why we were there. My mom ended up coming home a week early. I remembered sitting in the airport just looking around, not paying attention to anything at all. And I turned my head and I see my mom. I was like, oh, hey, it's my mom. Just like it was no big deal. Then I had to do a double take and I jumped up out of the seat and said, it's my mom. Both me and my brother jumped up and ran and tackled her. It's a different life being a military brat. You have to sacrifice things that non-military kids don't even know about or understand. And you gain an understanding about the importance of sacrifice. I've considered going into the Air Force myself, and my brother is planning on joining when he graduates high school. Maybe when we have children, both of our kids will turn out to be military brats and continue the tradition too. That was written by my daughter, Marissa Fernandez. So the military is a big family, and it's not just about the military members, it's about the family too. Because when I was over in the Middle East, it was tough on me, but it was equally tough on my kids because I couldn't contact them very often. You know, we had email, but I couldn't email them very often. I couldn't call on the phone very often. There was a 9-hour time difference. And I remember calling back one time, and they said to me, oh, hi, Mommy. We're doing great here. Gotta go now. Bye, Mommy. Love you. I'm like, what? I gotta go? Yeah, so I just want to say one other thing about veterans in closing. As a veteran, we get humbled when somebody says, thank you for our service. Thank you for your service. That's very humbling to us as a veteran. But if you really want to thank us by showing your patriotism to this great nation, by doing things like putting your hand over your heart when you hear the national anthem played at an event. Or if you're at a parade, you see the flag go by, stand up and show your respect. That means more to anything. And, you know, thank you for your service, very humbling. But we're doing that so you can continue to have these freedoms and live this wonderful life that you're living. So I just want to share one quote from Calvin Coolidge. He said, the nation that forgets its defenders will itself be forgotten. All I ask you to do is just to show your patriotism to this great nation and remember and honor our veterans, past, present, and future. So I'm Eldonna Lewis Fernandez, known as the Pink Biker Chick, and I encourage you all to take control of the handlebars of your life today and go Pink!